Ah, Anita, one of the highlights of the recent Doctor Who Christmas special, Joy to the World. And Mrs. Flood, the mysterious character who beckons the Doctor's destruction. Surely these two characters have little to nothing in common. Surely they couldn't be the same person. It is my firm belief, after having contemplated the events of Joy to the World, that Anita is Mrs. Flood, and in this video, I want to tell you why. But before we get into it, if we could do me a teeny tiny little favour and click that subscribe button, it'd be very much appreciated. We are currently on 25,150 odd subscribers, so if we can get to 25,200 maybe for tomorrow, that'd be absolutely fantastic. Thank you for all the support. Let's get right into it. So before I delve into how Mrs. Flood could actually be Anita, let's observe and recap Mrs. Flood a little bit and what we know about her. First of all, and I think this is crucially important, she's not a god. We know this because at the end of Legendary Ruby Sunday, she gets disintegrated along with everyone else when Sutekh dusts the universe. A god would be able to avoid such an event. We also know that Mrs. Flood is aware of who the Doctor and what a TARDIS is, as well as who Ruby Sunday is. We also know, thanks to Season 2, that she has access to time travel, appearing in various different locations across the Season 2 teaser. With all that in mind, now let's take a look at Anita. Anita, as far as we're aware, is just an average human, which would also make her mortal. She meets the Doctor, sees various TARDIS ornaments on his workshop, as well as various blueprints for the TARDIS and other bits of technology such as the Starseed. We also know that she is aware of Ruby Sunday's existence because she asks him who the Doctor is not calling. As for time travel, at the end of the episode, the Doctor formally suggests her to the Time Hotel to become one of their new employees. This would therefore give her access to the time doors in the Time Hotel, thusly allowing her to time travel. So already that's some pretty good evidence. And we also know that she would have several reasons to want to find the Doctor. One would be that she would feel abandoned by the Doctor, not having seen him since the events of Joy to the World, growing into her old age, never having seen him again. So perhaps a slightly resentful Anita travels back in time to an earlier point in the Doctor's timeline in order to intercept him. This could tie in thematically with the Doctor's abandonment of Susan, which was a key part of Season 1. But perhaps it's a less nefarious reason entirely than that. At the end of Empire of Death, Mrs. Flood beckons the Doctor's destruction by saying, "I'm sorry to say the Doctor's story ends in absolute terror." So perhaps via her access to the Time Hotel, she managed to see what happened to the Doctor in the future and is now attempting to head back through the timeline in order to warn him. This also explains why Mrs. Flood picked Ruby as a neighbour and why she is so excited and encouraging to get Ruby aboard the TARDIS, because that is how the Doctor ends up meeting her. She knows the timeline is on the right track. If you're still not convinced, just look at the two's clothes side by side with each other. Look at the white collars and fluffy jumpers, and even the actors themselves look fairly similar, as though one could be an older version of the other. And to add even more to that, does anyone remember the name of the actual actress who plays Mrs. Flood? Anita Dobson.
Coincidence? I think not!
Hell, this wouldn't even be the first time this era would cast an actor with the same name as the character they would go on to play. Who remembers Susan Twist? All roads lead back to Anita. What about her suitcase that we see in the Empire of Death, as well as various behind-the-scenes material? A suitcase is something you take when you go into a hotel, which naturally Anita, working at the Time Hotel, would have done repeatedly. This explains why she could have stickers and pieces of promotional material on her suitcase from various locations across time and space, because she has access to them. Those stickers bear a striking resemblance to the brochures we see in Joy to the World. But the thing that made me want to make this video is a quote that Stephen Moffat recently gave to TV Choice magazine, which I found via Doctor Who filming locations. May 2024, Stephen Moffat told TV Choice magazine that while he hasn't read the season 14 finale, bizarrely enough, I have read the finale of the following season, for reasons that will become apparent, he said cryptically. And then Doctor Who Filming Location says, the return of Anita. And what did Anita Dobson say in a recent Comic-Con appearance?
At the end of the next series, you will know everything about Mrs. Flood.
By the end of season 2, you will know everything there is to know about Mrs. Flood. So why else would Stephen Moffat have an advanced viewing of the season 2 finale and not the season 1 finale, unless one of his characters in Joy to the World played a vital role in the season 2 finale, that being Anita. And if you think it's unlikely for Russell to drop such a crucial part of his plot lines into a Stephen Moffat written episode, consider the fact that Moffat's first episode in the first RTD era, Empty Child Dr. Dances, introduces Captain Jack Harkness, who is by far one of the most important characters in the Russell T Davies 1 era, who incidentally would start out as a beloved character in his own right, only to subsequently be revealed to be a completely different, previously established character with a lot of mystery surrounding them. The puzzle pieces are starting to fit here, folks. Just imagine it. The Doctor comes face to face with Mrs. Flood, finally asking the question of who on earth she is, only for it to be revealed that she was an old friend who the Doctor abandoned. The Doctor already feels that he leaves everyone, and feels bad about doing it to Anita, and wants to make right by Susan. So to have yet another friend turn into some sort of foe as the result of his abandonment would only hurt this Doctor even more. It's no secret that the audience sees Anita as prime companion material, and maybe there'll be a meta-narrative surrounding that. The idea that she feels cheated, that she was never invited on the Doctor's adventures, despite spending a year with him and growing incredibly close. It's also noteworthy that, as far as we know, Mrs. Flood lives on her own, and has done ever since we met her. She mentions husbands and other relatives, but broadly speaking, we've never seen anyone else associated with Mrs. Flood on screen. This fits with Anita's backstory of not having any family or anyone to go back to. Everything lines up perfectly for Anita to be Mrs. Flood. And this could be wrong, but I genuinely don't see a better theory out there. But what are your thoughts? Let me know down in the comments below. If you did enjoy this video, be sure to give it a like, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you later. But hey, that's just a theory. A Doctor Who theory. Thanks for watching. And cut. I've always wanted to do that.